Hey everyone, this is JT and Christy from O Face Wrestling. We are joined by Queen PR from Those Wrestling Girls.
Hey.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk about our Survivor Series predictions for tomorrow's pay-per-view, and we're just going to strictly focus on the women's matches tonight.
Nice.
So the first match that we're going to start off with is going to be the 5-on-5-on-5 women's traditional Survivor Series match. That will consist of Team Raw, which is led by Charlotte Flair. On her team, she will have Natalya, the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, and then Sarah Logan. Team SmackDown, which will be led by the boss, Sasha Banks. And on her team, she's got Carmella, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, and Nikki Cross. On Team NXT, that will be led by Rhea Ripley, and she will be joined by Toni Storm, Mia Yim, Tegan Knox, and Candice LeRae. So what's your thoughts on this match, B?
I'm excited for it. I love when women make history and have like a first. So this weekend is full of firsts for the women, including like war games. But one thing that I did miss about this Survivor Series season was like the qualifying matches. Like those are really good leading up to something. And it really helped you follow and be intrigued with like who the teams actually were. But it seems like they've just been thrown together this year. But other than that, I think it's been fun, like the invasions. Um, but my prediction on who's gonna win, I want to say NXT is gonna win, but I'm really rooting for Team SmackDown because of Sasha Banks. I think she has been like the most legit captain. Rhea Ripley too, but she's really like called out NXT, like didn't let them run away. Like she was the one that was like, no, like we're here, let's go. So I'm going for SmackDown all the way.
What about you, Christy?
I'm going to go for NXT. I think out of all three teams, I think NXT has the strongest with who they have on their team. Rhea Ripley is a big one, also with Mia Yim. Them two together could just, I feel like, just be their own team and just dominate with just them two. But also, Candice LeRae, she's also up there in NXT as well. So I'm going to go with NXT.
And for me, I was going to go for Team NXT, but then when they announced their team, I was kind of disappointed that some of my favorites were left out. There's no Dakota Kai or Bianca Belair or Io Shirai. So I love all the women that are on this team, but that kind of like hurt it for me a little bit. Like you mentioned, P, with Sasha Banks, she's been the best leader out of all these teams, and her like promo that she had yesterday was amazing. Just her leading Team SmackDown out to the ring, that was just such an epic entrance. And I think, Sasha Banks right now has the most momentum. And I can see her getting this win, and that can kind of, potentially give her more of an ego and, have her, kind of be more interested in taking the SmackDown title from Bayley. So that could, start a storyline. Definitely going to have to go with Team SmackDown, though. Team Raw looks like actually a pretty solid team, honestly, but it's hard to bet against the boss.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
I agree.
And now the next and final women's match, and this will probably be the main event considering they have all three of these women on the actual Survivor Series poster. You got Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch versus SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley versus NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler. So, P, who you got going for this match?
I need Bayley to win this match because she needs it the most. I think with her heel turn and just keeping the momentum with her, I think she's the one that needs to win the most. Like Becky doesn't need any more wins in my book. Like nothing is going to diminish her star power right now. Shayna has already established herself as a dominant NXT Women's Champion already. Like she's broke. I think today she broke Asuka's record of combined reigns. So, and then she's Shayna Baszler. Like, so I think Bayley needs the win, even if she has to cheat to win. I think that it might even be better for like her character. But I think Team SmackDown all the way.
What about you, Christy?
I got Bayley winning. Like you said, with her recent heel turn, I feel like she needs it the most to really boost her character. I wouldn't be surprised with the invasions that we've been having recently, especially Shayna Baszler with her too. I don't even know who the other two girls are because I don't really watch NXT, but I know Shayna Baszler with the other two girls. It wouldn't surprise me if they interfered, and then potentially Becky and Charlotte coming and interfering with Sasha and starting the whole feud with the 4 horsewomen versus the 4 horsewomen. That wouldn't really surprise me, but we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of leaning towards too, because in general, we know how high WWE is on Becky Lynch, so it's kind of hard to picture her losing. But Bayley, she turned heel. She's got a lot of momentum. We don't want to see her lose either. We kind of want to see her to continue to rise. And then Shayna Baszler, I think her winning would be more of a benefit towards NXT as a brand in general, to build them up and to make NXT look strong, considering they're finally on live TV weekly. So I can see them going through that route as well. I would love to see, like she mentioned, Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir interfering in this match to kind of start a 4 horsewoman kind of rivalry, especially with WrestleMania is in like 6 months or something like that. They can kind of slowly start to build this. So it just makes sense. They could do something else between the 4 horsewomen at Royal Rumble and like do a slow build, because it's not out of the ordinary for WWE to start a big WrestleMania match at Survivor Series. I know they did that a few years ago with Sting and Triple H.
Yeah.
So they could do that with these women as well.
I agree. And I think we all knew last year it was going to be Becky and Ronda for WrestleMania. We didn't know maybe that would be the main event, but I think this is the time of year where they start to kind of plant seeds, I should say.
Yeah, it makes sense. Survivor Series is one of the big 4 pay-per-views. It's way too early to do that SummerSlam. So Survivor Series seems like a good opportunity to do that. But yeah, like you mentioned, Becky versus Ronda, we probably could see that. Some people are saying that Ronda could return at Royal Rumble and challenge Becky.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I mean, I've been wanting to see Becky versus Ronda one-on-one ever since they had that moment at the Go Home show for Survivor Series last year when Becky got busted open and was beating the crap out of Ronda with the chair.
Yeah, crazy. Okay. I have a question for you guys. So I am going to miss, I guess it's not a question, but are you guys going to also miss Survivor Series season? Because the last few weeks, we can't answer, we watch NXT hoping that someone from Raw and SmackDown is going to pop up. That's going to end soon. And I'm going to miss that excitement of a Rhea Ripley versus Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair match. Who would have thought we would ever get that? And now we go back to kind of the regular, it goes back to just that. I mean, which is okay, but I'm going to miss the excitement of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've mentioned that on Twitter. After tomorrow night, there's no more invasion angles. There's no more NXT jumping on Raw or SmackDown jumping on NXT. Excuse me. And that's gonna really suck because we've gotten to see some great moments like Rhea Ripley and Sasha Banks, Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch, and it's just been a really fun last month. I mean, it really got really hot when right after that whole Saudi Arabia pay-per-view where a lot of the wrestlers were stuck in Saudi Arabia, so we got to see all those NXT people jump on SmackDown the next night. It's been really fun, honestly. Got a question for you though. Do you think that anyone from Raw or SmackDown could potentially invade War Games tonight?
Oh, I don't know, because this will be my first time watching War Games. So I don't know how those normally. I'm gonna say no, only because there's already a lot going on. You have 2 pages, 2 rings, 10 women already, and I think this is NXT's moment. So I think they're gonna let that stand alone, and because the next night you got all of that going on, but you never know. I mean, Sasha Banks and Bayley have yet to. Well, Bayley did. But I think we all were anticipating Sasha Banks and Bayley doing like a little bit more, like making more of an impact in NXT. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did, but I kind of do agree with you. I think they're going to let NXT be its own thing tonight. But I know only once, and was when Triple H and Seth Rollins were rivaling for WrestleMania. That takeover right before WrestleMania, Seth Rollins did show up at NXT and called out Triple H. So that was the one time we saw someone from Raw or SmackDown like invade NXT. I'm not gonna rule it out, but like you said, I think it'll just stand alone tonight.
I'm excited for what.
Yeah, me too. I'm always excited for any NXT takeover. It's that one show by WWE that is guaranteed to deliver.
Yeah. I have one more question for you.
Sure.
Because we're ending out 2019. So we're ending out a year and a decade. Who, in your opinion, has been the women's wrestler of the decade?
Of the decade. That's kind of hard because there hasn't been a single female who's really dominated the whole decade. Like I know the first half it was, AJ Lee and Paige kind of had their moments. I know the Bellas had their moments as well. Like some of the bigger names right now, they didn't come
It's
to
hard.
be. What was that? What'd you say? I was saying
I don't know what that is.
Oh, my bad. But yeah, like Sasha Banks and Becky and Charlotte, they all didn't come, until like 2015 and start making noise. So as far as like the decade, I mean, I know Natalya has been around the WWE this whole decade, but she's only won the championship like twice. So she's been more of kind of like, a team player. That is really a tough question, though. Female of the decade.
I want to say it's like a three-way tie with me between AJ Lee, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch. AJ Lee, because she, in my opinion, like kind of started the women's revolution. She kind of put her voice out there. She was the first the first longest reigning Divas champion. And when she was champion, she tore that women's division down. She challenged every single woman in that locker room, and she just dominated the whole entire locker room. Sasha Banks, because she's a fucking boss, so of course, she has to be in there. But she and Charlotte, of course, they were the first ever. Sasha's had so many first in WWE women's history. Her and Bayley, the first ever women's Iron Man match. Her and Charlotte, the first ever Hell in a Cell match. But Becky, she's had a lot more going down in history. She was the first woman to main event WrestleMania. She was the first woman to be featured on the cover of the WWE video game. She was the first woman for a draft pick in the draft. Becky's had a lot more firsts, but I feel like she's had those firsts because she was already built up so much. Like, who else would they have picked for those things? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I can't really choose, but I'm going to say those three, and leave it at that.
I agree with those.
I actually was thinking I'm gonna pick Mickie James.
I love her.
The reason why I pick her because she's been a part of the whole decade. A big part of the decade she was with Impact Wrestling, but she dominated Impact Wrestling because I actually at one point watched it and she was the Knockouts champion a few times. And then coming back to WWE, even though she hasn't won the title since coming back, she still has, been a major player. She had a really good feud with Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch. She was a La Luchadora when she came back. I don't know if you remember that. But I got to give it to Mickie James. She's just been a workhorse in the wrestling business for probably like 2 decades, honestly. But I'm going to go with Mickie. What about you?
I can't disagree. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Mickie.
Both of your answers are really good.
Yeah, just like the only unfortunate thing is women wrestlers tend to not wrestle as long as men. So a lot of these
Or
popular
as
women,
consistently.
a lot of them just haven't had a long, lifespan in the business. Like AJ Lee, as dominant as she was only here for like 3 or 4 years. Same thing with Paige, and it's just unfortunate. I know part of it is just, a lot of women, they have kids, start families, they can't, do that and then still wrestle like a male and all that kind of stuff. So that
They
plays a
feel
part.
like they're not getting the right, you know, due or attention or the right storylines, and then they just leave because they're just like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I think next decade will be easier because then at least women will be featured consistently up until then. So then we can really, it's an even playing field. Like it's, because like Trish and Lita, it's easy to say they were the wrestlers of that decade because they were the only ones positioned to be that anyway. But now it's more like, we just mentioned like 4 different women that could easily be like wrestler of the decade. Naomi's been with the company for 10 years too. So it's like, but at half of that time she wasn't now. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, she started out as kind of, the dancer and all with Brodus Clay and all, and then I feel like she's really come to her own with the whole glow gimmick.
Yeah.
I feel like that was definitely a good boost in her career, and I know she's having some problems right now, but hopefully when she comes back, she can kind of get back on track with things.
Dominant. Yeah. I agree.
All right, I think that wraps this episode up. Did you have anything else to add, Pete?
No, I am excited for War Games and Survivor Series.
Heck yeah, you could be live tweeting tonight?
Yes, I believe so.
Awesome. So everyone watching this tonight, make sure that you live tweet with both of us. Queen PR will be live tweeting on those wrestling girls on Twitter, and then I will be live tweeting on O Face Wrestling. So make sure you're chatting it up with us and talking some shit.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.